Today, we're catching Department of National Defense bureaucrats plotting to obscure Christmas flight records from the public, should the public, just like me, ask for them. And we have the documents to prove it. Today marks the third installment in a series of Access to Information stories regarding the use of the federal government's Challenger jet fleet for VIPs and the Prime Minister himself. Now, this work is funded by you at home through your generous donations to rebelinvestigates.com. So thank you in advance for making this story possible by helping us with research costs and filing fees. Now, for those of you who haven't really been following this story as closely as well, I guess I have been, we need to go back a little bit, actually back about a year. The story begins way back in December of 2020 when sleuthy civilians noticed a plane with the federal government call numbers on the way to Barbados over Christmas holidays. And the assumption at the time was that Justin Trudeau took off for yet another unearned vacation while simultaneously doing his best to Grinch it up and cancel Christmas back home, telling everybody that we couldn't have our friends and family over for turkey because it was just too dangerous in the times of COVID. Here's David Menzies' story at the time with one of those sleuthy civilians. Take a listen.
What other kind of evidence or what other kind of theory can we rely upon, Guy, here to indicate that maybe indeed Justin Trudeau was not in our great Dominion as he was warning everybody else to stay at home?
Well, I think the best evidence, David, lies on a couple of pictures that are circulating, and also the picture of the two jets, Government of Canada jets that landed at 3:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on January the 4th in Ottawa. Its transponder went off at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Therefore, you could no longer track the flight because it had no to and from info. So you can only track these flights when they're live in the air. And that was, again, we had the pictures at Uplands and him being extracted out the side door at Rideau Road and Alert Road. He didn't even hit the terminal. He didn't even hit the reception center.
Now, I started doing some research and investigation myself, and I was immediately lied to by the federal government. It just took a little bit of time to figure out that I was being lied to. We filed for the Prime Minister's Challenger manifest for the month of December 2020, so right after Christmas. The federal government, actually the Department of National Defense, which manages the fleet, said that they didn't have any flight records for the Challenger for December 2020. However, 4 months later, in a response to an order paper question asked by the opposition party in the House of Commons, the good old DND, the department responsible for the Challenger fleet, produced documentation noting that the Challenger had been borrowed, commandeered, I guess, by the defense minister himself on December 18th to fly back to his home riding from Ottawa over the Christmas break. You know, while the rest of us were advised against non-essential travel, Minister Harjit Sajjan, well, he could go home for Christmas. But this wasn't just a one-off event. This problem with the Challenger fleet manifest turned into a bit of a pattern of misleading and one might say lying from the Department of National Defense. They continued to not produce records that we knew were there. For example, when we filed for flight records in July regarding Trudeau's travel, they said no such records exist. Except over the course of just 2 days, July 6th and 7th, Trudeau had been in Quebec, Saskatchewan, and Alberta for highly reported and publicized meetings. So when we sent the Department of National Defense, again, the ministry in charge of the planes, Justin Trudeau's itinerary for those days, they told us, darn it, wouldn't you know, there had been some sort of administrative error, and they would subsequently provide us with those records. Funny how that works. So now all of this begs the question, is this a pattern of ineptitude? I mean, it is the federal government, so that's, you know, like a pretty strong possibility. Or is it a pattern of dishonesty with access to information filers like myself? I think it's the latter rather than the former. And today I have the proof in writing. Now, After the federal government blocked our initial request way back in December of 2020 and flatly denied the existence of any such records, even though we knew a flight with the call signs belonging to the federal government had traveled to Barbados over Christmas, we filed again for those same records, but we did it in a different way. We didn't ask for the flight manifest this time. We asked for the communications and documents relating to flights during that time. And when you know it, we got them. Lo and behold, there was a flight, including the manifest for Barbados. On pages 1 and 2 of these documents and 8, they list the manifest for the flight, though it lists just military personnel on the flight. So if that was the case, why did they continue to lie and block the access to information filings about these flights that we sent previously? It doesn't make any sense. Again, I ask, is this pathological? And the lack of information and clarity here causes people to speculate and fill in the blanks for themselves. But here are the facts almost a year later. This was a military flight. Judging by the information on page 8, the Challenger flew to Bridgetown, Barbados, empty, to pick passengers up. It's a climate emergency, am I right, you guys? That's what they keep telling me anyway. There were also flights to Colorado Springs and Wichita further in these document filings. There are emails that explain the Wichita flights were for the new planes that Trudeau ordered for himself, and those planes were sent there for final modifications to bring them up to snuff. Probably needed a bigger wine fridge and a custom bong or something. Anyway, starting on page 17, you can see the DND bureaucrats were tracking the social media coverage of this flight that had the federal government call signal. On page 18, you can see them texting, making fun of the social media reports, calling people conspiracy theorists. But if they just told the truth about what these flights were for and didn't try to hide and obscure information from the public, people wouldn't be doing the filling in the blanks for themselves. Look at this. He says, I'm expecting an ATI. That's access to information. Now, on page 43, bureaucrats even call questions and reports about if there were any out-of-country flights fake news. Do you see that? They're mocking you. Except they're the ones promising in these documents to lie and say there was nothing significant to report. Why couldn't they just give the public the information when we asked for it way back in December and January? Now on page 38, they explain that this trip was a military liaison team sent to Barbados in anticipation of the 2020 hurricane season. So they pre-sent them there to spend December in Barbados just in case there were hurricanes. What a tough assignment. It's good work if you can get it. Now, I'm no expert, but I see online, at least in Barbados, they claim hurricane season doesn't run December and January. See, right here, hurricane season, which runs from June to November. Now, further down in this document package, they call the trip training in Barbados instead of Ottawa in December and January. Again, pretty good work if you can get it. And maybe it was training. Maybe it wasn't training. Maybe it was just a fun trip to Barbados. Maybe it was about the hurricane season. Maybe it wasn't. My problem is, how can we trust these bureaucrats anymore to tell the truth when we see in writing that they mock curious Canadians and then make a plan to say that there was, quote, nothing significant to report? Instead of just telling the truth, it shows so much disrespect for the very Canadians that pay their salaries. They don't want to be held accountable. And that is a tone set right out from the very top of government. Justin Trudeau lies and lies and lies and gets away with it. Not even gets away with it. He gets reelected. Just look at all the lies and lies and lies that flowed out of the WE scandal. That sole source contract he gave his friends and incidentally employers of his own family, the Kielburger brothers. It was just, a necessity. The WE organization was the only organization able to administer that student bailout program. In reality, it was something that was carefully crafted to provide a sweet government contract to Trudeau's buddies. Or how about when Justin Trudeau said he wasn't going to impose a vaccine passport and then he did? People are being laid off all over the place, and federally regulated industries are throwing people out of their jobs and banning people from travel because of Justin Trudeau's vaccine passport. Heck, you even need a vaccine passport to get onto Parliament Hill. The point of all of this is the shamelessness of these lies and the boldness of these lies from the Department of National Defense has been given approval either explicitly or passively through the example set by Justin Trudeau's own management style. But the moral of the story in the end is they can't hide this information from the public forever. Oh, they can try. They definitely do try, but eventually we get it in the end. But it takes time, almost a year in this case, and hours and hours and hours of research, line by line, to find the lies. And it's expensive, with research help and filing fees. And we don't take a penny from Justin Trudeau. And how could we? How could we ever hold him to account if we did that? To support our access to information investigations, just like this one, made possible by you, please donate today at rebelinvestigates.com. And let me thank all of you who donated to this already. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. At Rebel News, we ask the questions the mainstream media just won't, because it will harm Justin Trudeau, or they're scared to ask the tough questions because Justin Trudeau pays their bills. But not us, because we're fiercely independent thanks to your generous crowdfunding donations. To continue to fund these sorts of access to information investigations that do take time, this story took almost a year, but they also take money. We require research filing fees and research help. You can donate at rebelinvestigates.com.